Good evening. Welcome to the second Keep the Lantern Lit fundraiser. I'm Gary Kawaguchi, president of the Japanese Canadian Cultural Center. We're standing at the entranceway to the center, just underneath the lantern. But before we go in, I wanted to point out a couple of new features. This new Japanese garden is the handiwork of the Toronto Japanese Garden Club and some volunteer work by some board members and staff. There's a new feature here called a Tsukubai, or a water basin here that's typically found in front of a Japanese tea house. Visitors would come and bend and wash their hands and clean up before they go in. This particular Tsukubai, we've dedicated to Scott Fujita, who for 20 plus years was the person quietly behind the scenes, looking after all of our gardens and clipping all of our trees. He had an assistant, Ben Nishitoba. We never saw them, but they did this work tirelessly as volunteers. You know, the center has 15 staff, but 1,100 volunteers, and that's the lifeblood of the organization. So going forward, it's the Toronto Japanese Garden Club that's going to continue to volunteer and look after this space. So let's go in and see the other changes. There are many changes to the Cultural Center. A new entrance door, no more handles to pull. Come on in, let's take a look at the rest. Some of those changes are going to be the vaccination screening at the entranceway. Back in the summer, with priority focus on health and safety, the board wanted this place to be a mandatory vaccination facility. Today, that would be more commonly accepted. Back in the summer, that was hard work. We wanted to make sure that every staff, instructor, volunteer, and guest to the center who was eligible for a COVID vaccine would be fully vaccinated before we came back into the center. Thanks to the federal and provincial government, you're going to notice some other changes. We qualified for $750,000 in assistance, primarily for making this place more accessible. But as we went into the projects for developing this building, we said, let's make sure we also include all the public health features. So you're going to see new washrooms, new change rooms, all completely renovated, no more doors, everything's a touchless environment. At the east end of our building, you're going to find a new family washroom for the young and the old who need more assistance. Those projects, including the front door, cost $400,000 to the center. That meant we had to pay $100,000 with the government picking up the rest. Another $350,000 in projects is still on hold until we raise some more money. Starting December 9th, our new electronic doors are going to swing open for all activities. We're opening up again, but it's going to be gradual. It's going to be slow. It's not going to be as fast as we want. It's a little bit sad to come into this building and see it as quiet as it is. It used to be a beehive of activity. So hopefully we'll get back to that. Last year, when we shut down, the center borrowed or arranged for a borrowing facility of $1 million and change from the foundation. That we thought we would need to cover our operating cost losses to the end of December last year. Well, here we are 21 months later, and we've barely dipped into that. We've only now just borrowed $150,000 to cover our operating cost losses. Thanks to a pretty solid financial strategy that's been the underpinning of the center for years, plus your generosity, plus support from the federal government's wage subsidy program, we've basically managed to stay alive to this point. The wage subsidy programs have gone. And as we reopen, our cost of heating, lighting, and cleaning are going to increase. So the coming winter months are going to be a difficult period of time for us to see our way through. As we reopen, I hope everybody can find their way back to the center, and let's look forward to 2022 as a promising year. Hopefully by the spring, the Harumatsuri, the Spring Festival, the Bazaar, and the Toronto Japanese Film Festival will return to a full house. Also on hold for the last couple of years has been the Sakura Gala. The Sakura Award was going to be honored, and hopefully this year, when we reschedule, will be awarded to two Canadians, Japanese Canadians, who have made a great contribution to Canadian sport. Bill Hatanaka, in 1976, he was a rookie with the Ottawa Rough Riders, set a record in a Grey Cup win. Vicky Sunahara, the second honoree. Vicky has 18 medals, 15 gold, 3 silver, at the Olympics and the World Championships, competing with Canada's women's national hockey team. Those two people will be honored at an event that the guest speaker will be Bobby Webster, the current general manager of the Toronto Raptors. Bobby, by the way, is Hawaiian Japanese. And that brings me to the next part. We have Maru. It's our new permanent exhibition at the center, and it's focused on the Japanese diaspora globally. Let's go in and meet Suyen. So our interest in studying the Japanese diaspora globally has been a concept that's been percolating at the center for almost 20 years. And it wasn't until the hiring of somebody with a great curatorial background and a master's degree in art history that this came to life. I want you to meet Suyen Chung. Suyen, tell us, what is Maru?
Well, Maru is the title for our new permanent exhibit at the Moriyama Nikkei Heritage Center. In Japanese, Maru means circle, but it was also a common suffix for naming Japanese ships. We chose the title Maru because it represents the cycle and connectedness of the Nikkei diaspora.
So on our way in, we pass, it looks like ship manifests. What's that all about?
So that ship manifest documents the first official voyage of Japanese immigrants from Japan to Santos in Brazil. There was also layers and layers of immigration documents by early Japanese immigrants from all over the Americas.
So you're talking late 1800s, early 1900s.
Yes.
So Suyen, when people come and visit us, what are they going to learn?
Well, visitors, when they come into this space, they would learn that politics in nations like Hawaii, the United States, Canada, Peru, and Brazil, and Japan are intertwined. And in hindsight, it's almost like domino effect, where each event would impact migration patterns, as well as the lives of Japanese immigrants already in the region.
So we used to have an exhibition here called The Five Generations. And it was a study of the Japanese-Canadian experience from the late 1800s through internment, dispossession, and then resettlement. How did that help you with the formation of this exhibition?
Well, Five Generation is an incredible exhibit in the JCCC, but it was also developed in the 90s. And as you can imagine, since then, a lot more research and stories have come forth. What we try to do with Maru is to document key historical events as outlined in Five Generation, but also to connect the Japanese-Canadian histories to the greater Nikkei diaspora.
I see a lot of design elements here. Can you tell us more about that?
One of the primary design inspiration for Maru is kintsugi. So kintsugi is the Japanese art of repairing broken potteries. And after the repair with gold, they would be stronger than before. And we thought that this was a wonderful metaphor when talking about Nikkei communities who had to rebuild their lives and community after World War II. And if you look a little bit closer at the golden lines, they're connecting all the panels in the exhibit. And we did this as a visual metaphor to show the interconnectedness of Nikkei communities in the Americas.
What did you learn about the Japanese-Canadian experience that linked the Japanese-Canadian settlement history to the rest of the world?
Well, one incredible event that would illustrate how interconnected these communities are is that in 1907, the United States banned transmigration of Japanese immigrants from Hawaii to mainland United States. And that redirected Japanese immigrants in Hawaii to the west coast of Canada. And in a domino effect, it causes the anti-Asian riot in 1907.
In Vancouver.
In Vancouver. And that is when the Canadian government closed off the border to Japanese immigrants. And this would eventually contribute to the mass migration of Japanese immigrants from Japan to South America.
This facility here has about 15,000 school children who come and visit every year. What will they learn from this?
Well, we try to include different elements that will capture their attention. One example is we have a few sets of mangas in this space, and they convey very complex concepts and storylines, but it is presented in an easy to digest format. And if you notice, we even position the panels a little bit closer to the ground so that our younger visitors will be able to enjoy them easily.
So when you talk about the transmigration from Hawaii or from Japan to South America to Peru, what did you learn about Peru?
Well, we learned that there are many factors contributing to the mass migrations of Japanese immigrants into South America. And there's a few contributing factors. For example, in 1923, the Great Kanto earthquake devastated the metropolitan center of Yokohama and Tokyo, which left millions of people homeless. And the Japanese government reacted by sending these homeless individuals overseas as contract workers.
Then they went to Peru.
Yep, they went to Peru, they went to Brazil. Around the same time, which is a little bit earlier, South America has abolished the African slave trade. And this caused a vacuum in low-cost or free labor. And so the Japanese immigrants were one of the groups that would replace this vacuum.
So they replaced the slaves who were working in plantations.
Yes.
Fascinating. And Brazil, same sort of story?
Very similar situation, yeah.
Suyen, how did you pull all of this together?
Well, I have a great team behind me, and also every single JCCC staff in some manner has contributed to this exhibit. I have to say, a lot of the work has preceded my time at the JCCC. For example, the Sadai project is an oral history program at the JCCC. It houses over 750 hours of footages of Japanese Canadians who lived through World War II. It has been an incredible resource for our research. The archives is also an incredible program at the JCCC. We have second and third generation Japanese Canadians who volunteer their time to catalog photographs. Without them, it would have been really difficult to pull this exhibit together. And finally, Raymond and Sachi Moriyama had been an incredible inspiration and support as well. They have always encouraged learning through interactivity. And with that in mind, we commissioned an art installation that is interactive by Nikkei artist Erika Kamanishi. It is called All in One, One in All. And one of the inspiration behind this artwork is when Erika would go to Shinto shrines and Buddhist temples and see visitors writing down their dreams and prayers onto small wooden board. And in this very similar way, this installation would invite visitors to do the same and contribute their writings and drawings. And so the form become one. And it's a reminder that we're all interconnected as humans and that we do not exist independently.
So to bring everything back to that Maru circle.
Yep.
So how many other countries collaborated with you?
So far for this project, we have worked with over 20 organizations internationally, and they've been so generous with helping us with photographs, information, and their archives as well.
So this is a permanent exhibition. How will it evolve?
Well, for this exhibit, we have a dedicated space for temporary exhibit, which we will rotate every 6 months with more research and more conversation with other Nikkei communities. So we're really excited to see how the space will continuously evolve over the next 5 years.
And that's not just, you don't just physically have to come here, you could see it online too, right?
Yes, we're really excited because our virtual exhibits are online on Google Arts and Culture, and we will continue to upload new temporary exhibits there.
And I hear you've had thousands of people go there already, so that's wonderful news. So hopefully, Suyen, this will be the start of more international collaboration, and this kind of content will be shared and created as well in other centers around the world, so that this global diaspora conversation will become a really rich repository of information for everybody. Suyen, thank you to you and the Heritage team and all the volunteer archivists for helping to put together such a wonderful exhibition. And to Raymond and Sachi Moriyama, thank you very much for continuing to support us as we go global. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Cultural Center, go to our website. There's a link to a 4-minute video that shows what life is like in normal times at the center, and in fact, for everybody. Take a look at that link because it'll remind you of all the things that we cherish here at the center, and hopefully we'll get back to soon. Now, recently, the City of Toronto awarded the Japanese Canadian Culture Centre with the Heritage Toronto Award. This award is in recognition for the manner in which we present culture and heritage for everything that we do, including this exhibition. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, for supporting us as we go forward, and hopefully keep that lantern lit as we return to normal times. To all the volunteer drivers, the board members who delivered 600 bento to today, thank you very much. To Ginkgo Restaurants, Momo Tea, Natural, Japan Eats, and to all the artisans who created the beautiful teacups for us, thank you very much. Special thanks to our sponsors, the Hori Foundation, Nagata Connects, Janice Fukakusa, Dr. Kazuhiro Yasufuku, and special thanks to Shiseido Canada for being such a great friend and a partner to the center for many years. All the beautiful gifts in your bag today, including the scarf that we used as a furoshiki to wrap your bento, all courtesy of Shiseido. Thank you very much.